2 years ago, and the world was saying that this was some kind of perpetrated hoax. What's your thoughts? What's the new conclusion now?
Well, I would say a couple things. We just came out with a new documentary, and in this documentary that does kind of an overview of all the updates, but then kind of shows behind the scenes what happened. I would have to say that, to me, we did a lot of tests. We did carbon dating, genetic testing, whatever. But the high-res CT scans were unbelievable. And when you look at those, because when I think of genetic testing and I think, okay, well, there's so many questions that need to be answered, but if I look at those CT scans, you're looking at like muscle fiber and tissue and blood left on the bodies. You're also looking at bodies that, according to all the professional people that we have shown it to, people that do this for a living, that are either radiologists or surgeons, that kind of thing, they can't find anything altered with the bones. So for me, that's a good place to start.
So you've done some extensive research, including DNA sequencing. Can you tell us, does the sequencing match the code of our regular DNA human code, or is this something altogether different?
I do not believe that they are 100% human. Again, when you do genetic testing, you can only ask one question with the sample, and then you ask another question, you run another sample through the machine. But so we were only able to ask a couple questions, and we wanted to know, what part of that DNA was human, and then if there was a part of it that had biological human-like genetic codes, then which ones would they match on the planet Earth, right? So in our genetic testing, those are the two questions we could ask given the samples that we had. And so it did come back that there was 25% of that sample did have human-like DNA, and of that 25%, none of that matched any modern human DNA. So that's pretty interesting.
When people say the white powder resembles paper mache in its own way, can you explain to us what diatomaceous earth really means?
The white powder. So, of course, when this whole thing started, everybody thought, oh my God, it's definitely paper mache or it's plaster of Paris because of the white powder. And believe me, because I wasn't on the first trip, when I saw the pictures, because I went on all the other trips after the first trip, I was like, that thing looks fake because of the white powder. But we went back, I went for the first time, and there was definitely something real about that body. So I was like, I don't know if this is paper mache or whatever. But the powder, we took samples of the powder. We took samples of the powder from all over the body. The powder happens to be diatomaceous earth. Diatomaceous earth is something you can buy at Home Depot. However, this specific sample was tested in a lab that tested all the mineral makeup of that diatomaceous earth. You can't just buy like one diatomaceous earth across the whole planet. There's different kinds of diatomaceous earth given where it came from. So this specific sample had a mineral makeup that matched the mineral makeup of the mountainous area in Pulpa, which is where they found the bodies.
Melissa, based on the evidence of the HD topography scans, can you tell us, is this the game changer everybody's been waiting for? Is this really the end of the mystery, or has it just begun?
Well, I can tell you about my own research on this. This has not been put in any of our documentary or little updates. But I as a journalist, I'm not a person to say it's fake right off the bat, and I'm definitely not a person to jump to conclusions that it's an alien, because I think that then you're just discrediting going after the research. So I read all these things that people said that somebody melted skin together and put a bunch of animal bones together, and then other ones saying that this was like a 3D print job, plaster of Paris, all that kind of stuff. So this is what I did. I called a place that does plaster of Paris, and I sent them the x-rays, and I said, could you do this body for me? Could you do the exact same body? They said, no, that's a real body. I'm like, but you can't make that? And they're like, no. Which I didn't think they could, because any radiologist that looked at it was like, that's a real body. Okay, fine. So what about the theory that some crazy person took a bunch of animal and human bones and then melted some kind of skin over the top of it. So I called a taxidermist and I asked if this was possible, and he acted like I was Hannibal Lecter, because it's literally impossible to melt a bunch of different kinds of skin together and then somehow, like, it doesn't make like a paste, right? I mean, I think he thought I was crazy. And that the bones would be different. They would give a different, they wouldn't match like they do if you look at the high-res CT scans or the X-ray. So I think, like, for people not being able to touch it, for people not being able to analyze maybe all the data, like some of the scientists that got to spend hours looking at the CT scans or the X-rays or whatever, it just immediately looks like a piece of work. But if somebody made that, like, they're on the level of God.